Hi there, it's Albert Luck again from luckymaths.co.uk. This is an introduction to percentages. Okay, so percentages is a topic that I think is really useful, obviously, in life for a number of reasons. You know, finance kind of stuff, tax, national insurance, etc., interest, mortgages, blah, 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 shopping. Okay, it's crucial. So the good news is you can complete these questions using the same tools as before with the ratio table. To work out 40% of 500, firstly, what we're going to need to do is divide by 10. Okay, so the starting value is 100%, so 500 we start with. If we divide that by 10, we know that 10% of 500 will be 50. And then we can use the previous work to say, well, hang on, 10% is 50, 20% will be 100, and 40% will be double that, which is therefore 200. So 40% of 500 is therefore 200. Now the next example, I've made them by all of 500, you see, as the starting value, so 100%. So 10% we divide by 10. 20% is double. 40% is double. 80% is doubling the 40%. So that's 400. But 5% can't be generated, so we're not going to use 80% or 40 or 20%. We're actually going to take our 10% value here to get 5%. And how we're going to do that is we're going to half 10%. So that means 50, half of 50 is 25. So 5% therefore 500 will be 25. But I also need to work out 1%. And the way I can do that is if I take my 10% and I divide that by 10, we can get 1%. So I'm going to use the 10% is really a good, you've got to get that right is what I'm trying to say, because otherwise you might not generate the remaining percentages you need. 50 divided by 10 means 1% would be 5. Now there's a lot of information in front of us, but I'll go back to the kind of methods I was using before. How do we get 96%? Well, 80% and 10% would be 90%. Add 5%, add 1%. So basically, again, if we just cross off numbers that I don't need to use right now, 400 plus 50. 450 plus 25 is 475 plus 5 means that 96% is equal to 480. And finally, I don't really need to talk too much about generating these numbers, hopefully, because you followed my previous example. But just to again clarify, 5% is linked to the 10%, halving the 10% value. To get 65%, I can add the 40, and the 20%, and then the 5%. So again, some values are not needed. If we cross them off, it stops you getting confused. So now all we need to do is add together the remaining numbers, and that should be 325 for 65% of 500. And that's the introduction to percentages with the ratio table. Thanks for watching.